Let's talk to Karoun Demirjian, the Washington, D.C. correspondent with the Las Vegas Sun. Really good to have you on the programme. Let me ask you first of all, could Harry Reid go, do you think?
Well, it's an awfully close race. The polling has been within the margin of error for weeks now. Sharron Angle has maintained about a 2% lead, but in polls where the average margin of error is about 3%, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's an incredibly tight race, and no one's quite sure which way it's going to go. And now that we're already in an early voting period here in Nevada that started Saturday, the polling is pretty much stopped, so it's now depending on the getting out the vote effort and what happens on November 2nd.
Are people taking the Tea Party seriously as a political force, or is it simply a way of protesting?
Well, the Tea Party is tapping into something that is very rife in the entire United States, which is this feeling of frustration. There have been 2 years plus, in fact, of serious hardships economically, especially in this state. Nevada is #1 in foreclosures. It's #1 in the unemployment rate. And a lot of people are very, very frustrated. And when people are frustrated, they tend to demand change in Washington. The Tea Party has come along at the perfect time to tap into that existing frustration. So while the Tea Party itself may not have experienced such momentum on its own merits in a different year, it's kind of the perfect storm. And they've gotten a lot of groundswell of support from people that wouldn't necessarily have called themselves Tea Party a few months ago, a few years ago, but are pretty much in line with what the party is pushing forward as its platform.
You see, I've heard a lot of people say they have no idea really what the Tea Party stands for other than anti-government. So I'm wondering if it had a place or places in Congress, how would it change the U.S.?
Well, there are several races right now where quote-unquote Tea Party candidates could end up winning and going to Washington. Here in Nevada, Sharron Angle is one of them. You also have Rand Paul in Kentucky and Miller up in Alaska. And as a combined force, if they end up taking, about 7 or 8 seats in the Senate, they could definitely swing the Republican Party towards their platform such as it is, which you're right, it's about limited government, it's about limited government and low taxes and enforcement platform when it comes to immigration and various other conservative positions on social issues. Their leader in the Senate would be a man named Jim DeMint, if that ended up happening, who's a Republican from South Carolina, who has basically made it his cause in this election season to drum up as much money as he can for these campaigns and hammer home this conservative message that's this wing of the Republican Party.
Karoun, I just want to ask you about a story that's making the rounds this morning, a book by Hugh Sheldon, former military chief. He says that in about 2000, yeah, you know what I'm going to come to, don't you? Bill Clinton lost the nuclear codes. How's that going to go down?
Yes. Well, Bill Clinton's not president anymore, and it kind of just brings the whole idea of the presidency into awfully human focus as to, we all lose our car keys. Those don't really put the fate of the free world in jeopardy, like potentially losing nuclear codes. But it's definitely a kind of tragic comedy that's playing out.
Well, we all need our car keys, Karoun. Thankfully, he didn't need the nuclear activation codes. Good to have you on the programme.